What's up, guys? It's me, Crypto Coffee. Today's video is going to be a little bit off the cuff and a little bit planned out. I want to talk about kind of an anti-FUD video topic, which I've been thinking about in the past, and I've also heard it come up among other hexagons as well. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. But first, let's just take a moment to admire this beautiful, beautiful chart, right, guys? What do we got? 0.0037 of a USD. C. I've never seen any other chart that looks really this good. Yeah, I mean, I've never really seen any other chart with this kind of a shape. And one of the reasons that I like HEX so much is its foundational principles are based on the premise of, hold on, I'm going to try something new out today. We're going to draw on the screen a little bit. So, speculation is the whole entire premise of every cryptocurrency. Every cryptocurrency is based on its speculative value, right? People don't really have any use cases for these things yet. Go ask your mom or dad, uncle, random guy in the street what they're going to use Bitcoin for. They don't care. They want to use US dollars, right? So the cryptocurrency markets are based on speculation, and I don't think you can deny that. Now, at some point, they will have real-world utility, but at this point today in 2020, we're close, okay? We're close, but we're not quite there yet. And speculation means that people buy, right? So people, when they speculate, they press that one green button on whatever exchange they are on, and they buy it up, right? So they buy. Speculation leads to buying, and once you buy something, what happens then? Well, you have it sitting in your wallet, and that's what we call adoption, right? So adoption is just literally what happens when people buy it. The more people that buy it, the more different people, the more adoption you have in all these different wallets, right? And as a secondary side effect of buying, not only do you have a bunch of adoption, but you've got price go up, right, guys? Price goes up. So you've got buying leads to adoption and price going up in the sense of more people own the coin, right? And obviously that's what moves markets. And that's what funnels back in to more speculation, guys. Speculation. It's the name of the game. So it's almost, as you can see here, like a flywheel, right? It's an infinite feedback loop that is self-fulfilling in a few different ways by, adoption, which creates network effects and price going up. And if you wanted to get three-dimensional on this thing, you could almost spiral adoption like out of the screen, because the adoption is an exponential. It takes on a different dimension, right? Because with every new person that you have that has the ability to own the coin, you get a new potential speculator. So maybe we don't have to get three-dimensional, but we can call this thing a flywheel that expands over time because of this, the number of people involved in the network effects due to what is called Metcalfe's law, which is like the law of network effects, right, guys? So Metcalfe's law basically states that the effect of a telecommunications network is proportional to the square of the number of users connected, right? So everyone new that joins the network, we get an exponential n to the 2 power benefit from that. Not to mention the price goes up, with everyone buying. Now, price goes up, it takes more and more economic energy when price goes up to raise the price. So that might be an exponential hindrance on us, but I don't even want to get too technical about that. That's what's so beautiful about this thing, guys. And it's definitely designed to prevent dumping, because if you emergency unstake early, you're going to get penalized. Now, a lot of people have been talking about, well, what if the Ethereum, okay, HEX exists on the Ethereum blockchain, right? That's a fact. And so far, the Ethereum blockchain has been relatively uncensorable, right? We did see a little bit of, Ethereum Classic was the Bitcoin maximalists, prized argument about why it's not immutable and people control the code. Guys, at the end of the day, people control the code no matter what system you're running. people control the Bitcoin code too. And so people can defect from Ethereum and they can continue to run the Ethereum Classic chain, which they're still doing for whatever reason. And you're always going to have a counterparty in the world, and that counterparty is people, guys. So we're counterparty minimized, but you still have people running this code, right? So what if in the very, very, very edge case, the people running the Ethereum code, I don't want to use the word soy boys because I like all the Ethereum developers, and I think they have good intentions, but a lot of people out there think of HEX as a bad thing that's going to harm people. Now, I hope it never has to come to this, but people could get a little too over-virtuous and a little too virtue signaling, and we've seen the hysteria of crowds, both on the internet and in real life. I mean, if you've watched the news recently, but people get this idea in their head sometimes that they don't like something, and they could potentially censor HEX and ban it from being on the Ethereum blockchain. Now, what percentage chance do I give this from actually happening? I would say 0.00001. And of course, I'm pulling that number out of my ass, but it's a very low percentage, right? Hold on, the sun is in my eyes right here. 1 second. So if an apocalyptic scenario happened where Ethereum had to move somewhere else, well, a lot of other coins have done that before, and they've done so very successfully. In fact, a lot of coins have done that with that being their intention the entire time, right? So let's go through a list of just some of the many coins that have migrated. EOS is obviously one of the biggest parallels that we like to make to HEX, mostly because of its launch phase, right? We have very similar launch phases, the way they're structured. But if you guys remember the EOS ICO, back at the time it was called an ICO, they had EOS DAC tokens, which were on the Ethereum blockchain, right? And there was a point at which all of the Ethereum EOS DAC20 tokens were frozen, which was June 1st, 2018. Now in this case they say, please ensure that all EOS DAC tokens are off exchanges, right? So take your coins back because we're not going to be able to convert them if you don't have them back. And after that June 2nd date, on June 3rd they took a snapshot that was verified by a number of people, different groups. And that snapshot basically took, record of everyone that had those DAC tokens in their own wallet at the time. And they had a converting mechanism where you could just go ahead and convert them into your EOS tokens. And they did this with relatively no, low friction, right? And I think you can still convert your tokens today, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. A lot of these conversion systems just basically have an indefinite length of time in which you can convert your tokens because, you might forget about HEX for a while and come back 6 months later. You would hate to miss that single date, right? Binance, another huge one. They did a whole mainnet swap, just like EOS. So a mainnet swap, they even wrote an article about it, consists of switching from one blockchain network to another. In most cases, the swap takes place when a cryptocurrency project migrates from a third-party platform, e.g. Ethereum, to its own native blockchain network, which was the goal of BNB all along. Now, it took them about a year, but they finally did it with a relatively low risk. I mean, it was referred to as a token migration. Usually the mainnet swap begins right after the mainnet launch, right? And it's not only associated with the launch of a new blockchain, right? They make a good point here on Binance, academy.binance.com, that it may also take place in situations where projects simply move from one protocol to another. For example, Storage performed a mainnet swap, migrating their tokens from a Bitcoin-based protocol to an Ethereum-based network protocol to avoid scalability problems. So there's two primary methods, right, that you can go about this. You can have your switch from a host network to a mainnet, which is probably not the way HEX would go. Or you can basically copy the contract code and port it over to whichever other scaling solution that you want. In the case of Storage Coin, it was from Bitcoin to Ethereum. In the case of Omni, it was from Bitcoin to Ethereum. And so you will have to take a snapshot, right? But it's very doable to just simply take a snapshot of the network state at that time. Basically redeploy the contract on the new host blockchain and import everyone's snapshot data over to that blockchain. I was trying to look up some details about the Storage Coin mainnet swap. Couldn't find too much. Here we've got a little bit of an article about how USDT Omni, remember USDT token used to be listed on the Omni network, and there's actually an ERC20 version of that was issued on the Ethereum network. So there's two versions of this coin, and they were easily able to port this over from the Bitcoin network tokens to the Ethereum network tokens. I believe the USDT network Omni tokens still exist, but on the Bitcoin network, but everyone's using the ERC20 version now, right? And I haven't done extensive research on this, guys, but just the number of cases that we have should be enough to show you that it's really very doable, and historically been done before. It can be done again, right? Now you might be thinking, oh, well, what if there's a swap that the exchanges don't actually end up supporting? Well, that's a good question. We can look at the Tron token migration guide. Tron is another one of the many blockchains that, again, started on Ethereum, migrated to their own mainnet blockchain. There would be a 1-to-1 swap for Tron's ERC20 to TRX token. And you might be wondering, well, what about all the exchanges? Well, here is a list of all the exchanges at the time of Tron that were able to support this migration. You know, look at all these exchanges. There's about 30, 40, might even be about 50 exchanges on here, guys. So when you think about it, this also isn't so much of an issue for when you think about the fact that from an exchange's perspective, they have a lot to gain in terms of trading volume by cooperating with whatever coin is switching networks, right? So if a coin has been supporting, if an exchange has been supporting a coin for some time, they're going to be likely to want to continue to support that token, especially if that is a token that is providing users with a lot of value and a lot of exchange volume, because that's how they make their money, guys. So if all these exchanges from Tron were able to back up a potential HEX migration, I'm not feeling too upset about it. And finally, we've got a guide here about how Binance automatically converted Tron's TRX coin from ERC20 to TRX20. So basically all you had to do was send these to your address on the Ethereum blockchain, and Binance would take care of it for you, right? So a lot of these exchanges are very cooperative because they, like you, both have something to gain from the new and improved protocol. And so that's really it, guys. I mean, so many different coins have done this. You've got Tron, Omni, Storage, BNB, EOS, probably a lot more than I'm missing. I just did a little bit of Googling, but that is the point I'm trying to make here. And so again, HEX doesn't need its own mainnet. It could have its own mainnet. What's much more likely is they go the Omni route or they go the Storage coin route and simply take a snapshot of the state of the blockchain. And of course, you know, HEX is going to have a little bit more data than most coins, because most coins simply have this address and how much do they own, right? That's the only two data points you need to tie together. With HEX, you need to tie an address to a balance and also a share balance, right? Because every address is going to have their number of stakes and shares and everything like that. So you'll basically have to copy all the data from that you see on go.hex.win. So balances, open stakes, stake end dates, stake start dates, share prices, and total shares owned, stuff like that would have to be part of the snapshot. But really, guys, these are just 5 or 6 more data points on top of your liquid HEX balance, right? And again, I'm not trying to freak anybody out, but this is an basically FUD talking point in an apocalyptic scenario where, you know, eventually if the hate got so bad from Ethereum that somehow they censored their censorship-resistant, free, open, borderless blockchain, you know, so do I think it's going to happen? Absolutely not, guys. And I think that we are in one of the greatest opportunities of all time. I mean, HEX really is, like, what other coin do you know of that has this kind of potential and the virality of it and the community behind it? People are making stuff all the time. I'm looking at the legendary Firebun's very own website right now, community made, guys, all community made. And there's a quote from, I forgot who it was from, Elon Musk maybe, where he said luck favors the prepared, right? And luck is where preparation meets opportunity, right? So you can expose yourself to more luck by being prepared, right? And so if you think about, let's say, I'm going to draw on the screen again because this is kind of fun. This is the ground, right? The ground is your preparation. And there's a bunch of clouds up here that are, think of it like the void of opportunity. So this is opportunity, which kind of just floats around, and there's some kind of a plane of existence where opportunities exist because inventions are just waiting to be created, right? And ideas are all kind of just floating up here. And when your preparation, if you can't tell by now, the analogy is lightning, right? So if these are all your negative ions that you're accumulating down here, and the opportunity gets big enough, you know, eventually you're going to have a lightning storm, and it's going to strike you. And it's only going to strike the prepared. So maybe a better analogy would be your preparation. All right, guys, I got a better version of the analogy. Your preparation... Let's draw again. Your preparation is the ground. This is preparation. And this is just the ground. This is where everyone's at right now. And then we got clouds up here that are called opportunity. What you can do with your preparation is you can build yourself a building of knowledge. Let's call that knowledge. And the more knowledge you add to yourself, you kind of make a lightning antenna. And you become the place that the opportunity is most likely to strike at. So, as you can see here with my poorly drawn lightning bolts, lightning strikes this antenna because you had the knowledge and you built it up off of the ground of preparation, which, and you know, eventually your negative and positive ions collided. It's kind of ironic too that this chart, this chart almost looks like this chart looks like a knowledge spire that is piercing the veil of opportunity. Anyway, guys, I'm done with my rant for today. All I'm saying is don't be worried about anything, man. I've been thinking about the most edge case scenarios possible, and it doesn't even faze me. I don't think that this is going to be a problem. And I hope that you don't either. You know, I hope that you all can just stay calm during whatever times are ahead of us, because trust me, times are good now, but they're not always going to be good. So keep those strong hands, and like I always say, keep calm, HEX on. See you guys later.